celebrating 20 years of possibility.
Hi, I'm Heath Shuler. This is my son, Navy, and we believe anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and I have been excited about this episode because this is like history, right? We have both Heath and Navy Shuler in the stadium locker room, and I guess your locker is right where we are, Navy. Thank you for being with us today.
Halloran, thank you. It's always a pleasure to do your show, and looking forward to hearing what my son has to say today.
Let me just start with this. I just want to start with feelings, and then we'll get to facts. We have the home opener. We've got a new Jumbotron. Stadium is rocking. We are now in the era. Your dad is the paper ticket era guy, right? Kerosene lamps, horse-drawn wagons. You are the electronic tickets guy. It was an incredible game. It was a blowout. And they started giving more players an opportunity to play. And they call your number, which is his number, 21, and you take to the field. First thing I would like to talk about is your feeling in that moment in that stadium.
Oh, I mean, it was a dream come true. Ever since I was little, I wanted to be in that moment, of course, but I was really zoned in, so I really couldn't think about much emotional and just think about the play at hand. But it was very cool to hear my name on the announcer, so it's pretty special.
Did you know where your dad was sitting?
I knew he was upstairs, but I don't know where.
Did you think about him?
Not when I was going on the field, but right when they called my name, I did. They were like, "Oh, get ready, warm up." So I thought about them, but when I ran out, I was just me.
So by the time you get on the field, you're just me, and then you got to run the offense. Mm-hmm. But as you're making your way to the field, what did you think about your dad and your family and the Shuler name?
I just knew they'd be emotional. I just knew. It was very special for them too, not just me. So.
You know, we're really proud of you. Heath, what did you feel?
Wow. You know, I mean, it was obviously mixed emotions. I mean, in a certain sense, because you had this excitement of he's in the game, he's awesome, and then I knew what he was feeling, or kind of what Nicole and I were feeling, which was, wow, this is a dream come true. That a kid that we watched him at a birthday party, you know, fake run into the tee at 6, 7 years old here at the stadium, to then watch him run through it and then get a chance to go and play in a game was just awesome. So it was an emotional high of excitement, but there's also that sentimentalness of, you know, dreams do come true.
It's a big dream.
Big dream.
Let me start with your path to the University of Tennessee. How'd you get here?
So out of high school, I went to App State for 2 years and then came here. So it wasn't the path I thought growing up when I wanted to play for Tennessee, but it all worked out at the end.
What was it like getting the call that, guess what, we got a spot for you at the University of Tennessee?
It was pretty special. I mean, I always, in the back of my head, like when I got in the portal, I was like, oh, maybe they'll call, maybe. But I had no idea, and so when I got the call from Coach Hype, that was just very special moment.
You really like Coach Heupel, don't you?
I do.
Tell me what you love about him.
I just love how he's a player's coach. He's always around the guys, wanting to get to know the players better every day. He's not a big rah-rah coach or get-in-your-face coach, but he's just a player's coach who wants to see his players succeed on and off the field.
Now let's talk about his journey here and how you felt about all of that.
Well, we had the conversation, which was always, you know, he said, Dad, I want to transfer. And there was at that time 230 quarterbacks already in the portal, and most of which had no home at that point in time. And I said, so we have no idea what's going to happen, what that expectations are. And so you're thinking, okay, who's going to start calling? And schools started calling him as he went into the portal. And then he, told me that Coach Heupel called him and had a spot for him, which was, truly a dream come true because, you know, deep down inside, I always knew that's where he wanted to play at Tennessee, but just, you know, the stars weren't aligned at that moment. But I knew he and Coach Heupel had a special connection with when Navy went down to UCF. And the truth be known, I mean, it was, you know, if they had a quarterback that already had committed, but the truth be known, I think Navy would have committed to Coach Heupel on the spot, you know, when he went to his visit the very first time we went down to watch them practice during their spring practice. And, you know, I knew then that there was something. And, you know, you never know. I mean, God has his way of I always say this, that man plans and God laughs. You know, you try to plan it out, but there's always, you know, he has a plan for us all. And that plan was ultimately for Navy to be back at Tennessee.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel.
We start out in Bryson City.
Yes.
And that evokes a chuckle. Why?
It does. I mean, it brings up so many great memories. I mean, I think you have to have a community that supports you. And I look at that community and how they supported me over the years. And whether it be, you know, from my high school days to my days in Congress of voting for me, to ultimately having a community here.
You know, what's interesting about your story, your football story, and your dad's football story is you didn't start out wanting to be a quarterback.
No.
That wasn't your thing.
No. Give me the rock. I wanted to play tailback. I wore the number 34 for a reason, Earl Campbell. You know, I was a big Houston Oilers fan at the time, and I wanted to play tailback. I mean, it really, that was my dream, but I don't think I had the skill set to play tailback on the collegiate level, so the next best thing was to play quarterback.
Who convinced you to make that switch?
My father did. You know, it was kind of one of those, we were playing midget football, and we had won our area and played very well and convincingly. So my dad put a game together down in Greensboro, North Carolina, playing a much bigger team. And they had a tailback there that was very special. And I'll remember trying to catch him on a sweep, and I had the normal angle that I would take, and he blew by me. And at that point in time, I realized, wow, that's what a tailback really looks like. And he said, if you're going to play college and you go in the NFL, he said, I think you ought to consider playing quarterback.
Did you always want to be a QB?
I mean, I don't know. When I was little, I had like little flag football tryouts, and we started throwing the ball. And I remember I was throwing the size up, and then I grabbed the size for my age going into the season, and I threw it like really far. So that's when I realized I wanted to play quarterback, I guess.
Yeah, you could chuck it. So 2 state championships in high school?
Well, 3.
3 state championships. So how did you go about the selection process? Because you were a hot QB. I was looking at how they had you ranked in the nation. You came out strong. How'd you end up here?
It was about relationship and actually being close to home. My relationship with the coaching staff, Coach Majors, Coach Fulmer, Coach Cutcliffe, and having, you know, really a team that threw the ball, and allowing my parents to come watch me play. You know, my dad was a mailman growing up, and, you know, to go to the other schools that I visited on official visits, the Alabamas, the Notre Dames, Miamis, Floridas, that was just going to be really too challenging for my parents to come watch me play. And they'd only probably get a chance to maybe come to 1 game a year, maybe 2. Just financially, you just can't afford to make that kind of travel and commitment. So I wanted to go to a place if they didn't have to spend the money and necessarily spend the night, and they could get back home and be ready for work on Monday. So Tennessee was you know, the location was great, but it truly became the people.
I think I was looking up some stats. You'll have to help me with these stats. 11 rushing touchdowns? Is that the record for QB?
You know, it was. I think it ended up being 13 because there was 2 in the bowl game, but the regular season, I think there was 11. And then Josh Dobbs, I think, ended up breaking that record his senior year.
Which means you had some wheels. I shouldn't say past tense. It means you have wheels.
No, had is the right word. Had is the right word.
When it comes to wheels, Navy, Heath, who's the fastest?
No doubt.
I always say him.
Really?
No, I mean, not even close. I mean, the way
Like
he
if you
runs
guys
now,
were the same age, same time.
he outruns me by far.
Really?
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, he's really, really fast. I mean, you can look at, how he runs during training camps and things like that. I mean, he's much faster than I was. I was kind of more of a fullback type. I didn't mind running people over. But, I was fast, but nothing like his speed now.
So you come to the University of Tennessee, you put up some yardage, you were headed for the NFL. You make it to the NFL, I think first to the Redskins.
Yes.
And you've got these big dreams, and it doesn't pan out the way you thought.
No, I mean, you always have these ideas of, playing in the Super Bowls and, ultimately, getting ready to, put on the Hall of Fame jacket someday. And, it just didn't work out. I mean, it was, to get a career-ending injury when I was with the New Orleans Saints, there was a lot of things that I can think that was so special about it. There were some great wins we had, when being the captain of the New Orleans Saints with Mike Ditka being the head coach, and my co-captain with me was Willie Roaf, who obviously is in the Hall of Fame. Some great times, but there was different plans for me. I mean, it was kind of like I've talked about. I mean, that was not the ultimate plan for God's vision for me, and I ended up doing a lot of other things that football is incredible. Don't get me wrong. But at the very end of the day, that some of the other things that I did in my life has been life-changing for other people in such a positive manner, and serving our country in Congress was one of those times.
What's interesting to me is I got to watch you have your lived experience, but I also got to watch my father live his life. I got to watch, he was living the experience, but I had a front row seat to that experience. And I don't know how much of your dad's story you've been able to watch, but what do you remember of his journey, and what stood out to you?
I guess I remember more Congress, because I was in, I want to say preschool when he first won his first election. And I guess just his hard work leading up to that, he never thought he would be a congressman until someone came over and told him it was a good idea. But just seeing him work and beat his opponent was just really remarkable for me as a little kid, seeing him be the underdog in the situation, I guess.
What did that do for you? How did that, when you think back, especially at this stage in your journey, as you're sorting out which way you're going, do you take pieces of what you learned from not what he taught you, but from being around him as he experienced life? Am I making sense to you?
Yes. I guess the first thing would be interviews. When I got into high school, I started getting interviews after football games and stuff. But just watching him ever since I was 5 years old do interviews, I kind of learned how to answer questions and stuff like that, but also just handle in pressure moments and big moments in whether it be football or anything else. The way he handles it was just really impressive.
What is it, or what was it about the way he handled pressure that made you go, oh, wow?
I guess just how he was so composed and just take a deep breath and just focus on the task at hand and then worry about the other stuff later.
You bring that into what you do as well?
For sure, yes, sir.
What else did you pick up from your dad?
I guess just his hard work. I mean, he's one of the hardest working guys I know, and also my mom, both my parents are just so hard workers, and that's what led me and my sister to be hard workers in whatever we do in life.
You love him?
For sure, yes. He's my best friend.
Yeah, your dad's your best friend. That's pretty cool. What maybe is the best piece of advice he's given you?
Jeez, there's a lot.
Hold that thought for just a second. Just stay right there for just 1 minute.
Okay.
When I ask him what's the best piece of advice, you hit him with the triple chuckle. What was that?
Well, because he's probably going to say there's 1,000 things he tells me every day. I mean, there's, Dad, I got it. You told me 100 times. I get it. You know, so I think part of that is just, you know, I mean, you always feel, and I always tell him this, I say, Navy, you know, as a parent, it's my job and responsibility to tell you these things. I know you know better, or I know that, especially growing up or getting your driver's license the first time, I said, hey, drive slow. Drive slow. Dad, you told me that last week. Yeah, and I want to continue to tell you that. Drive slow.
I think it's so powerful to see a father and his son in this kind of a dynamic relationship. And when I asked you, do you love him? You lit up. And then you said he's your best friend. If I could just make an editorial comment, I think the world needs to see this possibility right here. Because we live in a world where this relationship is just blown apart and fractured. And it seems to me that you even recognize just how powerful and what an honor it is to be in a relationship with your father that makes you light up. I mean, and I would imagine that does something for you as a young man and does something for your confidence. But you were about to tell me, like, the advice that he's giving you that sticks.
I guess it would just be like next play mentality. You make a mistake in life or anything in school, do bad on a test, or throw an interception, just like, you know, next play mentality and just.
What do I always say? Tee it up.
Yeah, when it goes back to golf and you slice in the woods, you just tee it up and hit it again. Just like if you fall off the horse, get back up type of mentality.
And that is a mindset.
You have to make mistakes in life, and you're going to make mistakes. If you're always cautious about making a mistake, you're not going to be successful. And and you want to be there for your kids when they do make mistakes. So they need to know that they can come to me and my wife. But also, you want to see how challenges in life, how they overcome adversity, and how they deal with it. Because at the very end of the day, you're going to have challenges, and how successful you become is how you handle those challenges. And me not fulfilling one of my dreams of playing in the Super Bowl or being in the Hall of Fame in the NFL, I had to dig deep down in my soul to figure out, what was the next steps in life. And, as a parent, you're hoping that your children watch you and they see those struggles, but they see how you handle adversity and you handle it with integrity and character, and you place not necessarily blame. You don't place the blame not on yourself. You don't place the blame on anyone else, but you're able to tee it up, you hit it again, and you move on to the next stage of life.
Congress. Dadgummit, it's crazy in Washington, D.C. How in the world did a guy like you end up in a place like that?
Sounds cliche, but I was watching my kids grow up, and 2 and 5 at the time, and I could tell them about the NFL, and that would be important. But what had I done as a citizen of this country to hopefully change and have a positive impact on the lives of others? And I felt it was my responsibility to serve my country. And I couldn't do that with the injuries that I had. I couldn't, go in the military. I was getting older at the time. And I felt like I needed to serve. And I watched my parents do that. I watched my parents serve a community and volunteer their time, the Swain County Youth Athletic Association. And I wanted my kids to say that we have to serve. And it's important to help the community. And so, it was an uphill battle. I mean, there was no way I was supposed to win that election. I was in a very challenging race with a cardinal in the Appropriations Committee. Had been there for 16 years. There was no way I was supposed to win. I put a team together. It was non-political. But we had one thing in common as a team, and that was work together accomplish our goals and do it in the right way with a lot of integrity and character. You didn't see me, bashing my opponent at any time. And all 3 elections, I personally never said anything negative, never made comments to them. Matter of fact, I never spoke about them. But we talked about what we would do.
I've been around a lot of high-powered political consultants and advisors. I haven't met one that at least at some point goes, look, Heath, you're not being negative. You're just explaining the eyes. Yeah, stating the facts, explaining the guys. That takes a lot of courage to resist that and to go, no, we got a different story to tell. We got a different purpose.
Well, there was 2 things. One, at the end of the day, I want to maintain my integrity. And the second thing, and most importantly, was it was about us and how we as a community could work together. And it wasn't about I. I'd been too much part of a team to realize it's not about individuals. The moment you make it about an individual, the moment it starts crashing. And you won't be successful long term. And you won't do your real purpose in that job, which is not to be elected, which was not to say that I was a member of Congress. The purpose of that job was making our country better and our community better.
Cool. This is a good place to pause. Part 2, when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about, I'm a preacher's kid, right? Which is probably a degree under being a congressman's kid. It's still a fishbowl. I want to talk about what that was like while he's in Washington and he's a congressman, what that does to a young kid, kind of growing up, kind of in that bubble. Heath and Navy Shuler on Anything is Possible.